Today, we're checking out a couple knives from Task. So these knives to me look like they're right out of the movie Mad Max. They look like they are, I don't know, futuristic and made in a garage all at the same time. They look like something that a human would make after a huge catastrophe, after, like, you know, an apocalypse happens and, you know, and everything just breaks down and everything's lawless and people are trying to survive. So they're literally finding whatever they can to make shift into weapons and things to protect themselves and to fight and to hunt. And that's what this knife looks like to me. It looks like a knife that's built after, or that's made from scrap metal out of a garage or from, you know, just anywhere, ripped off of a truck or something, and forged and made into a weapon. That's what they remind me of, and I freaking love it. I think that just looks badass to me. Now, the first one we're checking out is the larger one of the two, and it is the Task Intruder. Task Knives Intruder. Now, the Task Knives Intruder is a little over 11 inches in length with a 5 3/4 inch blade of Nitro V. Well, the entire thing is Nitro V, but it has carbon fiber scales on it with a little thin layer or a little thin sheet of titanium over the carbon fiber. You know, just kind of makes it more of that industrial look. Now, the handle with the scales on it is just under a 1/2 inch, and the blade stock thickness is 184 thousandths or 4.6 millimeters. So this is a robust knife. Now, while it has a little bit of a Tonto-ish to it, it's also very dagger-like. It has a very, very pokey tip, but I've stabbed, poked, and thrown this thing 100 times. I've twisted it in and out of hardwood, and it is a very indestructible tip. The tip feels very solid. Nitro V itself is a very, very tough steel. Now, this Nitro V is heat treated between 58 and 60 HRC, and, you know, it's yeah, it's pretty solid. You know, just the stock thickness itself makes it very robust while being very stabby, and, you know, it has that fighting knife feel to it. And because of the handle being a little under a 1/2 inch, it's very slim in the hand. So it's gonna be super slim. It's gonna be a little more compact as far as like carrying goes. You know, it's a nice flat surface. Now, the grind is a dual grind. It has a hollow and a flat, and then it has a hollow swedge on the top. And the knife just, you know, feels like it wants to be stabbed into something or slashed, you know, or thrown, because it throws so good. This is a great throwing knife. Now, it has holes in the back of it so that it can be maybe tied to a spear or something like that. This is a knife that throws really, really well. It sticks really well, and you kind of feel that when you get it in hand. It's like you just want to throw it. This other one is of a sheep's foot blade, more of an EDC style blade. Now, I don't think these are camp knives in any way, shape, or form. You know, I kind of tested them on wood more for ergonomics than anything else. It was just trying to test them, you know, like during harder use. But to me, these are more EDC self-defense style knives. He might make some camp style knives, but to me, these just wouldn't be that. That doesn't stop them from being very cool and being very useful. It's just not going to be something, in my opinion, that you're going to want to bring to the campsite, you know, or go hunting or anything like that. So there are some really cool factors to these, but there's also some negatives. One, the sheaths don't hang on very well. I can just slap the sheath right off. They do click in, but they are definitely a lighter click. So, you know, I'd prefer them to have a little bit more of a direct click. That way, you know, it's securely in there. If I fall down or fall out of a tree, whatever, you know, it doesn't come falling out. Now, as far as the sheep's foot one goes, you know, it does have a dual ground blade. However, it is built, both of them are very thick. These are very robust knives, very thick behind the edge, very thick at the spine. They feel like pry bars basically. So, which I think is a little bit of a downfall considering the handles are slim. you know, the carbon fiber wrapped over the steel, you know, doesn't give you the most, I mean, it's comfortable in the hand, but, you know, because if you start beating on it and things like that, you're going to get the vibrations from the steel. So I kind of wish the handle was either one, a little bit more thicker so that it could fill the palm a little bit, or number two, they were just thinner so that they weren't such a struggle to get through things. Because like as a regular everyday slicer, personally, this is too thick for me. I couldn't use it. It could be like some sort of pry bar, but that's about it. And then another thing is both knives didn't come with the best edge. I can tell they're a belt sharpened convex edge, which is a tough edge, but to me this knife already has, they're both already so thick behind the edge. I don't know if they need a convex. They'd probably do a little bit better with a V grind, but regardless, they weren't that sharp. They weren't even paper shaving sharp. So to me, that's definitely a negative. I think out of the box, your knife should definitely cut through paper just fine, cleanly. If not, at least it should shave hair, to be honest. I can always do that myself. I'm not that worried about it. That is something, you know, I could easily do. But, you know, it's just a point that, you know, right out of the box, you know, in my opinion, you need to sharpen it pretty close to right away. Weird because this one would be my favorite if it was thinner behind the edge, if it just had thinner geometry. But this one winds up being my favorite because it is a little bit slimmer. Now, it's still thick and robust. Like I said, you could throw the heck out of this thing, you know, and because it is so stout, you know, it's going to survive and penetrate at the same time, which is pretty cool. You feel like you want to thrust with this thing. It feels like a fighting knife. So, you know, because of that reason, because it feels a little bit more practical, in my opinion, not that a fighting knife is super practical, but at least it's useful for something, right? To me, I'm struggling to find out what I could really use this for, because the only thing I can think of is prying. You know, because it doesn't have a very pokey tip for utility cuts. You know, it's not thin behind the edge for slicing. So, you know, and it's not, you know, a big size for, you know, cutting wood and things like that. But this one, you know, the one thing, the screws did start coming loose, but, you know, I was throwing it and stuff, so not that big of a deal. That can just be, I can Loctite that. But when you're chopping with this one, it's definitely not comfortable. It is not made for chop because it's a metal handle. You know, you have a little piece of fat carbon fiber to fill your hand, which is cool, and it actually is comfortable when you just grab it. But when you start chopping and swinging into something dense and hard, it vibrates through your hand and it's painful. It's very painful. So, and if you're on this end, if you're batoning this through something and then you have to hit this side, oh my goodness, you don't want to hang on to the handle. So to me, you know, it's not made for wood processing or anything like that, but this thing, like I said, it's a heck of a poker. I mean, this is a great self-defense knife. This is a great fighting knife. And in that regard, it is awesome. You know, it's definitely something that has the cool factor. It looks cool, it looks aggressive, it's mean, and it'll definitely get the job done. Now, again, I would like to see the edge a little bit sharper, but with this one, you know, it's a little bit slicier, and it's not, and not just that, but it also, you know, is very, very pokey. So, in throwing it, because of this arch right here, your hand kind of just lays right there, so you can kind of guide the distance, you know, depending on how close or how far away you are, you know, you can kind of, you know, do that. You can choke up or choke back, you know, for distance, which is pretty cool. And you can choke back with the handle to get more slicing distance, or, you know, stabbing into something. But either way, like I said, these things are, to me, are 100% cool factor. And I do think that they do have a use and a purpose. I just, you know, like I said, with this one, it's just a little too thick and robust for something that I would use personally. Maybe somebody out there would use it for, I don't know, something, you know, it can maybe be used in some sort of construction for sure. Like, you know, when I was doing construction, this probably would have worked pretty good as, you know, as like basically a pry bar. So just to give you an idea of the thickness, we talked about the spine thickness. You know, this one's about 184 thousandths thick. Behind the edge, it ranges between 48 thousandths and 75 thousandths, you know, near the tip in the thicker section. Very robust. Now this one, because it's bigger, it, you know, can make a little bit more sense, and it has that really pokey tip, you know, for thrusting. This one, however, we're talking about 60 thousandths and then 75 thousandths up near the tip. That is just entirely way too thick, especially with, you know, a 215 thousandths blade stock thickness. It's a chunk of steel. So it makes it to where it's not going to be a good cutter. It's not going to be a good user. It's not going to be a good utility cutter. The only thing I can see this thing good for is prying. Now, this thickness would be fine if it was a big chopper or something, but it's not. You can't chop with it. You can't do anything like that. So, and because of those reasons, that's why I say, you know, this one, it's, you know, it's got a lot of cool factor, and I do appreciate, you know, the work being done. I just don't find it personally for me very useful. But these are really cool, and I always appreciate handmade knives. And, you know, like I said, this one, I think, you know, being, because it's a lot better for, you know, as a fighting style knife, I do think this one has some really cool factor to it. And, you know, and I have seen more of his work when I was at Blade Show. I actually seen his stuff for the first time. I actually do have some of his stuff on a video from Blade Show. But anyways, this is just the first impressions. I will be testing out, you know, the steel and sharpening it and stuff like that. Thing is sharpening something like this will take a long time because it's so thick, like a very long time. Probably have to do it in a couple sessions. But anyways, there you guys go. Work hard, stay tough. You know society's relying on you. Until next time, peace.